Hey everybody, Matt here with Melinda and Dean. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well wherever this finds you. Continuing our series on the culture statements of our shared reunion network, who we are as churches, church plants, dinner churches, existing churches who have joined us, wherever this finds you, however you are gathered. It's good to hang out. So today, we are talking about our culture statements around being pioneers. Ooh. A culture of adventure and innovation. It says we openly consider and pursue creative new ideas that contribute to our shared sense of mission. And we'll be looking at and chatting through Acts 17 as a guiding passage. But as always, I have a little story here.
As always, it's good.
This episode's called Roll with the Punches. Okay. So, grade 3, my friend Derek down the street for Christmas got a set of boxing gloves. Well, 2 sets. So we decided it was good to, like, at some point go down in his basement and figure out boxing.
As you do.
Honestly, and it started out so, like, jovial and fun. But then as you're kind of goofing around, like, all of a sudden, like, you get hit, and then all of a sudden it changes you a little bit, and you're like, wait a second. So then you're like, still kind of smiling, but you're like, well, I'm going to get you once then. And all of a sudden we're having full-on boxing match. And we're like slugging each other. And then we realized we should never like box again together. The whole point of that idea is that in boxing, one of the things is rolling with the punches, absorbing, moving, noticing your surroundings, being able to react to it. And in this passage in Acts 17, Paul is like a master at being in a different context in the city of Athens, spending time with people, talking about the message and way of Jesus, but absorbing who they are in their culture and helping them understand and fit it their understanding into the way of Jesus, helping them connect the dots that who you're looking for is actually Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously lots to chat about. Kick us off.
Okay, so the thing that I love, first of all, I love this story.
Yeah.
There's so much in here, such good nuggets. But the thing that I love is what you just mentioned before, is that Paul's walking around, chilling out. He's disturbed, but he's walking around, all of a sudden he notices the unknown God. And what I love is that he takes that and then connects it to this is actually, oh, you're unknown God? I know the name of the God.
I know who he is.
I know who he is.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when your poets talk about, you know, we are your offspring, you probably don't know who that is either. Hey, I've got the person who you are the offspring of. Like, it's so awesome, because that's kind of like what I would do.
Right.
I would kind of like look at it and go, oh, actually, I can see the connection where that fits with God, or that's the way of Jesus.
Right.
But I think it's this whole idea of being in culture, being very aware, taking it in, and then when there's opportunity, boom.
Right.
You know, you can say, there's the connection. I've got answers for you for a world that has a lot of questions, that has a lot of like unanswered big unknown gods, big question marks. And you can say, actually, I think I can help you put it together. I can actually help you name it, because I think the naming is it. I think a lot of people have a sense of it, but they don't know the name of it. They don't know who it is. Yeah. And I think for us to be those agents to say, actually, let me help you. Let me give you, a person that could fit into what you've been looking for or searching for. His name is Jesus.
But that ability to roll with it and kind of move with what they're talking about and what they thought and help transition it into a Jesus direction, that's a certain kind of ability, right?
I think it is, but I also think that if you know who you are, if you know, I think, and true. I mean, I've been a follower of Jesus for a long time, so it's a little bit more natural. It's not sometimes easy, but it's a little bit more natural because I can kind of go with what I know. But I hear what you're saying, Matt, where sometimes you could be like, wow, I'm terrified of that possibility. But I think the one thing I would say is just Paul being aware, being in culture, walking around, absorbing, taking it in, and when opportunity presented itself,
yes, I love that.
Boom,
yes.
He can speak it and name it.
Yeah, I love that. And to kind of build on that, the thing that always stands out to me from this passage and is a constant reminder of like a way that we should pattern our lives is that Paul, right away, it tells us, as you said, he was kind of disturbed, or like the Greek word could be like provoked. And so when we think like you're provoked, it means you want to act and you want to react, but he doesn't.
Right.
He doesn't chastise the people for all of their, different gods and different styles of worship, and that, they're kind of living in this way that is like spiritually eclectic, but not necessarily giving them what they actually are looking for. And we know that they are certainly searching. The people of Athens, they are searching. They're talking about all of these ideas.
Yes.
And instead of Paul acting on his provocation or his anger or whatever it is, to say like, you guys, you don't get it. Like, you're sinners. You're doing the wrong. You believe in the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You think like this is going to save you. It's not. Blah blah blah. He like listens and observes the culture and is like immerses himself in it to the point of walking through the city and noticing. And what that does is it allows him to be invited. He's invited to the Areopagus to talk about these ideas, to share. Literally to share the gospel. They're like, we want you to come and tell us about this thing. And he's like, yeah. And instead of saying like, you guys are getting it all wrong, you're doing it, you believe in all this like bunk, I'll tell you, he says, hey, I can see that you are like deeply spiritual.
Yeah.
You are searching.
You are
for something.
searching.
Like, he validates the very thing that was provoking him to feel disturbed.
That's good.
And I think that's such an important lesson, to allow those things to stir in us and provoke us. But then to say, hey, that's because they're actually searching. Not like, oh, you do this and you do that.
So bad.
Yeah, you're so bad.
I love
Which
how
is
he
the
models
church's
that.
tendency. We were known for that. We're known for, you're against it, you are a sinner, look what you're doing, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Where this is a beautiful picture. And actually says, I love how he quotes their poets.
Yes.
Right.
So they're like, oh, you know us. Oh, you know what we love. And then he goes, and then that may explain that you say we are his offspring and this is who he is. Like, it's so beautiful. And I mean, I want to be that kind of communicator. I think part of why I love this passage in the work I do as a communicator and storyteller, I learned a lot from this, of how Paul did this, what he was doing, how he knew it so deeply that he could naturally speak it. That's the other part about knowing, and I think, and then again, I love that that he wasn't pointing the finger and being angry at them. I love the dog is barking.
I'm not sure how well you can hear, but we're in my house and my dogs are basically going bazonka.
This is amazing.
I'm sorry. I was like,
This is how professional we are. Welcome to Reunion.
And this is it, but this is home, which is
what
where
it
we're all
is.
going.
Welcome to our dinner table.
that's right. Oh my goodness.
But can I back up on
go
that
on,
for a
go on.
second?
Yeah.
I love that their first response to the message Paul's bringing is the assumption that he's some kind of lunatic babbler.
Yes,
Yeah, the
yes.
babbler. The
Like
babbler's
they
the best,
they think he's just like, oh, he's talking about some other gods, because culturally there's all kinds of gods, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So if you've never heard of what this one he's talking about, this Jesus, this resurrection, you just assume it's some other thing that's risen up, some other idea. He's just babbling on, and that doesn't stop Paul. That is, it's not until they can ask more questions then they start to click. And I love that their starting point is they don't know anything about it, which is, I think, really important culturally, at least in the Canadian context now, where we know more people are spiritual but not religious, have a curiosity but no religious background, no affiliation. I think sometimes we assume people have a starting point of some kind of understanding of Jesus, but more and more the case is that's not the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
So any conversations about Jesus, divinity, fully human, fully God, resurrection, it sounds like babbling.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
What's the classic line, right, that I've heard from, honestly, some of my friends, like, it's cool, but like dead people don't come back to life.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
and
like-
virgins don't have babies.
Yeah, right?
No, but really,
Totally.
right? Like that's impossible. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy talk.
It does. It sounds like babble. Yeah. The other thing that I really love about this, and we've in other episodes we've highlighted some of like the doubters and things like this, and it just like really it makes the scriptures like so earthy and raw and real. I love that this passage ends with the reality that a few people followed along. They became followers of Paul, right? Who's like his classic line, follow me, follow Jesus. So it's not like they were about Paul.
Right.
But I love that it's like a few. Like he had this whole audience. He spent time in Athens. He's gotten to know people. He's been having conversations in the marketplace, which is brilliant. And I think a huge takeaway for us is like, what does it look like to have these conversations in the marketplace, but also in the meeting houses where they're going, right? The Areopagus and these other places where spiritual conversations happen. So there's these different pockets, and he's working hard.
Yeah.
Like he is hustling out there, and he's being invited in because he's obviously, even though some of it might sound like babble, there's enough relationship and something compelling that they want to hear what he has to
There's
say.
a curiosity.
there is.
But at the end of the day, it's like, it's a few people.
Yeah.
And this is Paul.
I know, it's Paul.
So like to me, it's so, again, it's like, it's so raw and honest and refreshing that it's not like.
It is refreshing.
Because some of the Acts texts earlier on are like, thousands were numbered added to their numbers, and you're like, oh, thousands. Like, I'm trying to convince like one of my friends.
But it feels like a relief, and maybe for the two of you who do, preach and pastor in that way, that it's not about you in the sense of that it's like you can do what you can do.
Yeah.
But you don't have to manipulate and connive about the response. It's not about the response. Those people heard it. That moment, it was the right time. Yeah. Everything collided. They were drawn in. They got it. And for others, again, we've talked in other episodes about choice. People choose, they don't choose. And so I think for me growing up in a Christian culture where it was about responses and numbers, and that's what measured success, and that's if you were successful if X, this is great. It's like Paul did his thing, a few believed, a lot didn't. Yeah. But he made a point, he made an impression. That probably rippled out, for the people who didn't believe, they probably were like, you know what, I do remember Paul talking about that thing about the unknown God, and he named it as his God. Maybe in a month, a few months later.
Yeah, who knows where that goes after
there, right? And so I think for me, it's like, I can kind of take that off of me.
Yeah.
I don't have to live in that, and just kind of be like, I'm going to do what I do, take the opportunity. When an opportunity arises, take it, speak, share, and then I'm like, let God do the rest.
Yeah, and we know how culture works. Like, there's always the kind of like person who is the pioneer. They're at the forefront of something new. And then there's the all-important like first followers, or we might say today in like tech terms, like the early adopters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's few, but they're all in on it because they kind of get it. It clicks for them. They're like, oh, I want to be a part of this. And then it's those early adopters that validate and give credibility to that pioneer, to that person who's really spearheading something new. And so, yeah, exactly what you're saying, Linda. Like maybe, we're even named like some of those people, and we know a woman named Damaris, which is pretty cool to see, like, out of all the people, like, she is named. How important are women in leadership? But like, she then maybe is that all-important first follower that can bring more people around her. And as the story goes, we know that there's communities popped up all over, and it wasn't because Paul was there doing all of the work. It was because there were a few people who grabbed onto it, and then it made it okay and safe for others. Yeah. Like, okay, well, maybe I will go check out the conversations they're having.
Yeah, I same thing, Dean, that you were saying, that it mentions the guy, member of the council, prestigious role, whatever that looked like, probably someone known in the community, and then a woman among them.
Yeah.
Damaris, which is so awesome that in the kingdom of Jesus, it's all equal. It's all available for all people. So you have an example of a man who had probably some kind of significant leadership role, and then a woman who's like, and this is this woman. But they're not presented as like, we got this one huge leader, and then, it's like, no, here's two people among this group, and we know nothing more about what happens, but that's such a significant, beautiful thing of the equality of what Jesus offers to people, regardless of cultural background, ethnic background, gender. Like, it's presented, you don't know who's going to respond, and it mentions two people, a man and a woman like this, which is huge to say, here's two examples. Yeah.
And I love this culture statement, too, of being a pioneer. Because I think, and at first when you gave the scripture, Matt, I was like, oh, this is the scripture about being a pioneer and, being culturally,
innovation.
I was like, what? Innovation?
Yeah.
But I get it because, again, as we talked about, it's this curiosity of being out there and looking and watching and listening of what's going on in the world. Because God is in the world in all things, not just Christian church things, but he is in great music and art pieces and poetry and everything. Yeah. But it's eyes to see those moments and then connecting with people and going, oh my, and I say this over again, like naming it for them. And I've had those opportunities where I have done that with a friend, where they're searching, they're very spiritually aware, they're seeking, but they never knew that the name could be Jesus. And when I actually named it, it was like, oh, there's a name for this? There's a name for this higher being, this thing. Like, and it was so beautiful to say that there many people, I would say, are just waiting for it to be named, are waiting for you to take that opportunity as a pioneer in culture, being innovative, to do that. And it's a responsibility, but I'll be honest, it's exciting. I find that really invigorating. Like, it's not contained in church walls, but it's out in the world. God is working everywhere and at any time. So.
In some ways, it's more exciting. It's more exciting out in the world, right? Like, it's one thing, like, if we fit ourselves into the convention and just say, like, Sunday morning from 9 to 11 or whatever, like, this is where the God stuff happens, like how sad and how boring, rather than seeing it in all of the places. And the places that you would least expect
Yeah.
the divine to show up is like, that's really where it's happening, right? I mean, theologian, podcaster, whatever, Rob Bell, his line, like, everything is spiritual. And it's like, yes, that's it. Like, everything, every moment, every interaction, every place and space is saturated with the kingdom. It's just like having the eyes to see and the awareness and the presence to step into it, and then assist people to point it out, to call it out, and to name it.
Yes.
And then recognize that not everyone's going to resonate, but
a few will.
And those are the key people that will carry it on, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Right. Any last minute thoughts?
No, I think actually, if you reread this and think about it this week, I think even for me to reread it again and go, oh, right, like there's so much more in this passage that you can take from. But I find it encouraging. I find it, again, like you said, a few. We're not responsible for the mass. We are responsible for where God is saying, here's an opportunity, and take it. Be that pioneer, which is exciting.
Totally.
I wonder, like the unknown gods of our time, where people are seeking and searching. How are we helping connect those dots back to Jesus? Because we're all longing and searching.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed. That's the human condition.
Yeah.
Right.
They happen to have this image that he addresses, but we have those too.
Yeah.
Maybe not so overtly in the marketplace, the idol head or something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we do have those spots.
But they're there. I think the work before us is to take, our cues from Paul and become so steeped in the culture that we can call it out and we can see. And maybe for some of us, it would be like a feeling of like provocation. Where we're like, oh, I don't like how the world functions this way. But then rather leading in with the like big finger of like, you don't do it this way or blah, blah, blah. But understanding it and seeing it and like entertaining it for a time. And then recognizing what's valuable in it. I don't agree with this system, or I don't think this is the best system for us as a collective humanity and you as a person, but I do see how you value this and why you value this.
Right.
But what if we tweaked it this way and introduced this concept of Jesus, who is radically different than any other religion or practice or anything else you might be able to do? And yeah, I think that there's work to be done for us to understand our culture in such a way that we know those things and then can present that unknown God.
Yeah. And not only unknown God, but in Him we live and move and have our being.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Great chat.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there.
Okay.
All right, over to you at your dinner tables, in your living rooms, as you continue the conversation looking at Acts 17 and talking about the culture statement around being pioneers. All right, talk to you soon. Peace.